Now let's spend a few minutes talking about the Jericho specific local rules. So these rules you won't find in the rule book. These are some options that the rule book will give you, and this is what Jericho is selected to play by. Where you can find more information is if you look on the Jericho website, you will see a document. It's under the coaches section of the website that will detail all the local rules, and I'm just going to give you an overview of them. The link to that document for the local rules I'll put in the description of the video. All right, so all the majors divisions that have umpires will play by a couple rules. One is all divisions play by the continuous batting order. So everyone who's there at the ballpark for the team will be put in the batting order and they will bat. Obviously, there's only 9 defensive players allowed on the field, but however many players are there for that team will bat. Now, because sometimes some teams might not have 9 players, it is allowed to play with 8 players. You just have 8 in the batting order, and that 9th spot is just skipped over, and it goes back to the top of the order if the team only has 8. If the team has less than 8, so only 7 players, then you have to suspend the game and it won't be an official result. Now, coaches may ask to play the game or share players or do something unofficial, and you should definitely allow them to do that and play, but it won't be official. The game is officially suspended, and there's no forfeits in Little League. It'll be referred to the board of directors and they'll decide what to do on a case-by-case basis. But be nice, let the kids play if you're at the ballpark, just so nobody's day is ruined because the team didn't have enough players. Another rule is courtesy runners are allowed. So where this happens is when there's 2 outs in any inning, if the catcher or the pitcher is on the bases and should be running the bases, they can be substituted for with courtesy runners. So usually this will be used for the catcher. Catcher could come off the bases, start putting his gear on, and that will facilitate the inning changeover to help the games go along a little bit faster. Catcher will be ready to go as soon as the 3rd out is made. The teams can switch places. The offensive team switches to defense. Catcher can come out, and the pitcher can start warming up right away. Now, courtesy runners are also allowed for the pitcher. So if the pitcher's on base and he wants to get a couple warm-up throws in the bullpen, then he can do that as well. And the courtesy runners in the continuous batting order have to be the last players to make outs in that order. So you just look in the batting order, see who made the last out. They run for the catcher. Catcher comes off into the dugout, changes his equipment. So that goes for all majors divisions. Now let's spend some time talking about the Major C division. So this is where new umpires, your first division, the first games that you'll work will be in the Major C division. This division is played with a hard ball, so the normal standard baseball. There is a 2-hour limit to games, and what that means is no new inning can start 2 hours after the original start time of the game. So if the game starts running long, the kids start losing interest, so we definitely limit it in time. If you do start an inning, so say your game's running pretty slow, 5th inning starts, and then the time of 2 hours is up, then you will play the 5th inning out, but you won't start the 6th inning. So no new inning can start after the time limit. There are run limits per inning. So the first 2 innings have a 2-run limit. The 3rd, and the 4th inning have a 3-run limit. And then the 5th and the 6th inning have a 5-run limit. And any extra innings that get played, if the game is still tied, but you're still within the 2-hour time limit, you can play extra innings, and those will have 5-run limits as well. And it is a 2-hour time limit for an inning. So if you do start the top of the 5th inning in my example, you do have to let the home team bat in the bottom of the 5th inning to actually complete the entire inning before you call the game, but you would not start a 6th inning. If the game is tied, then it's just a tie game, unless it's a playoff game, and then the board of directors will decide what to do in that case. All right, mercy rule. is when a team can't win due to these run limits. So for example, if the team is after 4 innings, if they're down by more than 10 runs and the team can only score 5 runs in the 5th and 5 runs in the 6th, they can't win. So that game would be called as a mercy rule. Game would be over. If they can tie it, so if they're only down by 10, then you would continue to play because they could tie, go into extra innings, and then win the game. Also, batter cannot advance on a 3rd strike, so it doesn't matter if the ball skips into the catcher or the catcher misses it completely. The batter cannot advance on a 3rd strike. And then some special rules for Major C. The players are just learning a game at this level, so just to keep the base running from turning into a merry-go-round around the bases and Little League home runs on every play, the runners are only allowed to advance 1 extra base on an overthrow. So let's say batter hits a ground ball to the shortstop overthrows the first baseman. The batter comes around first base. If he thinks he can make it to second, he can try for second. But then if the fielders catch the ball, throw to second, he can't then go to third, and then they throw to third and overthrow, he go home. He can only take that 1 extra base on that original overthrow. That means a runner also on first base stealing second. He can go to second. If the catcher throws the ball into the outfield, that runner that's stealing second can go to third, but he cannot go all the way home. So only 1 extra base on an overthrow. It's like the ball was thrown out of play usually in terms of limiting 1 extra base. But if the defense gets the ball and throws him out, it's not for free. So he is at risk. He advances at his own risk. And then there's some special rules that only apply to the first half of the season in Major C. Usually the first half ends on a Victoria Day long weekend in the middle of May. And the special rule is that no walks will be allowed. So as umpire calling balls and strikes, will call the balls, but after the 4th ball, the batter won't be allowed to walk, but instead, batting tee will be put on the home plate, and the batter will have 3 attempts to hit the ball from the tee. When they hit the ball, it has to go past the pitching plate, so it has to go past the pitcher's position. If it's not, you do it over. But if it does get past the pitcher's plate, ball's hit into the infield, the batter runs, and the defense tries to make a play on that, on the batter or any of the other runners. Another special rule for the first half of the season is the runners can't steal home or advance on a passed ball. The runner has to score on a batted ball put into play. So this means, say, runner gets on first base, they might steal second on the next pitch. On the next pitch, they might steal third. This happens a lot in Major C, but then they're not allowed to steal home on the next pitch if it gets past the catcher. They're stuck at third base there until the batter actually hits the ball and puts it into play. Now, if the batter hits a ground ball to the shortstop and the shortstop try to retire the batter at first, that runner from third can go home on that play, but it has to be a batted ball put into play. Same thing on a walk or an overthrow. The catcher overthrows the pitcher on a throw back to the pitcher. The runner from third cannot steal home or advance to home until the ball's put into play. If the bases are loaded and the batter walks, actually a batter can't walk because there's no walks, so never mind. But after the first half of the season, these 2 rules will go away. The overthrow rule will still apply, but then hopefully by then the pitchers are better, the catchers are better, and then a runner can steal home for the second half of the season. And that will be the bridge up until the Majors B season. So let's go talk about Majors B. Majors B really starts to eliminate some of these special rules. So in Majors B, there are 2-hour time limits. No new inning can start after 2 hours from the start of the game. There is a 5-run limit, but only for the first 3 innings. So teams, if they score 5 runs, if there's only 1 out, it's okay, inning's over, they're marked for 5. Changeover occurs, offense goes to defense, goes to offense, and you continue. But then innings 4, 5, and 6, and any extra innings are unlimited, so no run limit. But there is a time limit. So the mercy rule we're not going to use because at the very latest, the game will be over after 2 hours. And the game should progress along pretty good because of this 5-run limit for the first few innings. In Majors B, though, still the batter cannot advance on a third strike. So even if the catcher misses it, ball goes to the backstop, doesn't matter, batter is still out on the third strike. For Majors A is straight according to the rule book. There's no time limits. There's no run limits for any innings. There's no tie games allowed. If a game does run into a limit, like another team needs the field or there's not enough light to finish the game, then you suspend the game. If the game's a regulation game, if enough innings have been played according to the rule book, then the game can be over. And according to the rules, get a little bit complicated. You have to check the rule book for this. But if the game is tied, even if it's too dark to see anything, you call the game will be suspended and it will be picked up at the exact point in the game sometime later in the season. Usually when the teams play again, they'll finish off this game. So no ties in Majors A. Mercy rules do apply because these games could go long if one team's having a bad day. So the rule, you have to check the rule book, 15 runs after 3 innings, 10 runs after 4 innings. The game will be declared over and the kids will usually go home and they've usually had enough by that point if they get mercy. Now in Majors A, the batter may advance on an uncaught third strike. So there are certain conditions that have to be met. If there's a runner on first base, they cannot unless there's 2 outs. You have to read the details on this, but this is more like you'll see on baseball on TV where the batter can advance on an uncaught third strike. Good, that's a brief overview of the local rules for Jericho. Each league association has different local rules. So if you do umpire for Dunbar, Caristille, or Little Mountain, you have to make sure to check their local rules for the division that you're umpiring to make sure you know what's going on there. And again, check the link in the video description for the full detailed document of the Jericho local rules. You're responsible for knowing all those and for knowing all the rules in the official rulebook or the rulebook, Little League Rulebook app.